You go to the grocery store, it's so impersonal, and you have no idea who picked that food or where it came from, what it's exposed to. With fleet farming, you get that community engagement back because now you see firsthand the faces behind where produce comes from.
The most important thing people can do today first is question their food. Where does it come from? How did it get to them? What was the impact that it had on the earth, on other species, on the people who grew it, and then what impact does it ultimately have on themselves?
I spent 20 years working inside in kitchens, so being outside was something I was striving to do. Fresh air and being in the element, feel much more energized. I always have little things I can snack on out here that help me, power me through the day.
For the last year, I have grown and foraged 100% of my food. Everything that I've eaten has come directly from the land. I've known every ingredient that I've put into my body. I feel much happier and much healthier than when I started.
Probably in some of the best shape I've ever been in my life, to be honest. And yeah, and I have fun doing it. My quality of life as far as my work is much better than what it ever used to be.
Which, even for me, that's proof. It's proof that we can do without that system that's destroying our planet and destroying our own health. And the fact that I'm standing here today, independent of that system, it feels pretty powerful to me.
The agricultural system has no respect for the environment whatsoever with their chemicals and the way that they manage their land. And that's something that we take pride in, and we're definitely trying to shift that so that we are good stewards of the earth.
I personally believe the globalized industrialized food system is broken and extremely corrupt. I mean, lobbyists try to control the food that we eat, mostly for their monetary gain, not for our personal health and not for the health of our communities.
Well, what we do out here, we're growing organically and we're growing sustainably, so we're growing healthy and fresh produce, and that's just overall better for your body.
There's a saying that probably almost everybody's heard, and that's, "Let thy food be thy medicine." And to most people it seems like this sort of philosophical idea in the distance, but for me, that was my reality for the last year. I had to not only grow and forage all of my food, but grow and forage all of my medicine.
Getting those nutrients that you normally wouldn't get when you buy something from the shelf or from a restaurant. And that is important of itself, because food is medicine, and it's something that we should look at as a society as a preventative measure.
And humanity has known this for ages, that what we put in our body is ourselves. So it's very important to put things in there that should be in there and that are good for us. So it's at one point the most basic, elemental idea, and at the same point in our current system, it's totally revolutionary to step away from big pharma, big ag, all the lobbyists, all the big corporations and government, and be able to, as individuals, take care of ourselves and as a community take care of each other.
I can't tell you how many times I've been blown away when I run into people that have no idea how a tomato is produced on a plant. There's a complete disconnect from how food is even produced. I don't know if they think it's grown in a lab or what. And it's very satisfying to see that, and that they get respect from it, you know what I mean? And then they can, oh my God, I can go home and I can do that myself. I can stick this in the ground, I can grow it. And you plant that seed in their head and they go and do it themselves.
But what most people don't know is that our most irrigated crop in the United States is the lawn. And we put billions of gallons of water per day. We put millions and millions of pounds of pesticides, which get into our drinking water, millions of pounds of fertilizer that run off. And so the lawn, interestingly enough, as innocent as it seems, is one of the most destructive things that we have in American culture.
Here we have a polyculture, we have a mixed range of species that grow here, and we've been transforming these habitats from this barren grass landscape into a living ecosystem again. So we're providing shelter, we're providing food for a multitude of not just insects but birds. There's lizards out here all the time, and just in the short time, in this short year that I've been out here, the diversity of insects that I've seen out here has grown astronomically. It's incredible.
Before, when they were just lawns, there was really no room for creatures there. It was just a monoculture. But now, every little nook and cranny has different species, whether it's the microorganisms like bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi, to the small reptiles like lizards and frogs and toads and snakes, to the birds that can prey on them. And it's actually a garden of life in an area where there was almost no life before.
Florida's got almost 400 species of native bees, and most people won't even know that. Everybody thinks the honeybee is just the only bee that we get out here, and that's not the case. But our native bees are so important. They nest in the ground, they're solitary, and they're so elusive you won't even notice them unless you're actually out here and involved in the environment and you see it. And they're much more efficient pollinators even too. So, but if we don't have flowering plants out here, we don't have an environment for them to come to where they can get food, you know, they're not going to survive, and if they're not going to survive, they're not going to come out and pollinate any of our other plants that we need for food.
My call to action is to plant something. It's one of the most revolutionary things that we can do. It can change our mind completely. It can change our health, it can change our communities, and it all starts with one seed. We don't have to necessarily start with these grand ideas. One tomato seed can turn into hundreds of tomatoes. One little pumpkin seed can turn into hundreds of pumpkins. So we can start small and we can make huge differences, and that can literally start with one seed.
You know, get yourself reconnected with nature first and foremost, and understand that it's something that needs to be preserved, and you know, however you can go about putting in your effort or your time, it will benefit everybody.